In the news tonight, government launches a program to help hundreds of the island's poor and vulnerable. The Education Minister adds her voice to the Springer Memorial debate. Some members of the local business community criticized for advertising practices. And in sports, there'll be a new Barbados Open Women's Champ crowned on Sunday and a repeat of last year's men's final.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
Very good evening to you. I'm Lisa Broom. Thank you for tuning in. In our top story tonight, a major initiative to provide assistance for hundreds of the island's most vulnerable citizens has been launched. Wendy Burke tells us the 1,000 Family Program is another effort at addressing some of the challenges faced by some of the island's poor.
And while corporate sponsors are on board, the Prime Minister believes that the 1,000 Families Initiative, One Family, should be something that's near and dear to the hearts of all of us, and we should all get on board.
We must fight the battles that we can win together, because there are some that are beyond our capacity to fight as a nation alone. We don't have, as much as we would want to believe so, the ability to make rain fall in the volume that we need it to fall so that the farmers from Mount Poyer to River don't have to worry about whether their labor is in vain. But we have the power to take care of each other.
Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs, Jehu Wilshire, insists government cannot do it alone.
We are seeking to rebuild families because of the family is the foundational unit of any society.
Minister of People Empowerment and Elder Affairs Kirk Humphrey believes there are three main tenets that the program has to stand on: compassion, curiosity, and a listening ear.
We want to recognize the good in people, and here's the thing that I know. While these are people in my life, these are also the people in your life. I am sure there are people in your life who by name you can think of who would have helped you, and in some cases, many people whom you too have helped. And so the essence of what it will take to make this program work is already embedded in the Barbadian DNA Prime Minister, so that is why I know it will work. I know it will work because it's not requiring us to go and learn new tools. We already have the tools. Regrettably, it seems that in some cases we might have forgotten what is embedded in our DNA, but it is on us to be able to do that.
Corporate Barbados is also on board with one company, Flow, assisting with internet connectivity.
And we at Flow are happy to be a partner in the One Family Program through our very own JUMP initiative, whereby Cable and Wireless Communication is partnering with regional leadership, community organizations, and private sector stakeholders to provide significantly subsidized broadband connections to qualifying low-income households.
The Social Development Project Manager for One Family, Nicole Daniel, explains the program.
I must say that this program is not one that just focuses on handouts. And yes, while we still have to provide some level of stabilization, at the end of the day, it is about the partnerships, building a relationship between the social worker and every member of the household of that family to meet their need and to let them move from a stage of dependency on the system to a stage of independence.
The Icy Bridge assessment is one of the tools being used to determine the eligibility of the families. Wendy Burke, CBC News.
Well, speaking at that One Family launch, Prime Minister Mia Amor-Motley also announced plans for a self-care program for the elderly and the caregivers of people with disabilities. She explained the program will provide the recipients with access to esthetician services, including nail and foot care and massages.
We want to introduce at least every quarter, and if possible, if we have partners, every other month or every month, one day where those elderly persons who depend on the Ministry of People Empowerment and those mothers and fathers who are overwrought because they are there for their children who are disabled in one way or another, or who are dependent on them, to be able to ensure that you can come, and we will set up stations in every parish and give you a chance, while at the same time giving those people who do this for a living a chance also.
Ms. Motley says little things such as this initiative can make a big difference.
Because that person, having been exposed to a pedicure for the first time, and given the high level of diabetes in this country and the absolute need for foot care, the high level of amputees, a government that sees people and feels people and hears people has a responsibility to introduce this as a form of personal care in the same way that you bathe every day and that you comb your hair.
Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Kay McConney, has been commenting on the controversial simulation at the Springer Memorial School. That exercise, which caused some students to panic, has led to outcry across some sections of society. She was speaking on the sidelines of the launch of the Future Forward Innovation Challenge for schools at Pelican Village on the Harbour Road. The minister says she's satisfied a number of stakeholders have spoken about the Springer Memorial matter to clarify the situation for the public. However, she adds there's need for guidelines to determine how drills are conducted in these modern times. She told the media there is an opportunity now for authorities to provide the right kind of guidance about how these exercises are conducted in the future.
We have to understand that the old-time way in which you did a fire drill might not be the same way in which other types of drills. So we have to really educate and provide the right kind of guidance so that we're able to mitigate the risk to children as well as to the entire community. And something like this will obviously impact everyone. So I think the school principal identified that, lessons were learned. The chief education officer also indicated what is going to be done. Like I say to you, it is an opportunity for us to provide the right kind of education and the right kind of guidance as to how you go about doing this effectively.
Minister McConney also responded to opposition suggestions she and her chief education officer should step down from their posts over the handling of the incident. Ms. McConney says it is a democracy and people are free to have their own opinions.
There will always be people about having their own perceptions, and that's the beauty of living in a free country where people can say and do what they like. But I think we have right-thinking Barbadians who are able to understand how these things work and understand that if we take an approach where when a school or a principal or someone makes a mistake, that we then seek to be able to use the opportunity to get better, build their capacity and ensure. I think that's where we really need to focus.
The Barbados Association of Psychiatrists is calling for greater consideration of the mental health of students, teachers, staff and parents as it expresses concern over the recent traumatic events in secondary schools. In a statement, the association said Wednesday's simulation at the Springer Memorial School had caused unintended harm rather than helping the school to improve security or manage crisis situations. It notes that while some states in America have mandated armed assailant drills in light of mass shootings at schools, the literature suggests these drills have a negative impact on the emotional well-being of young people. The association shared several recommendations, including the involvement of mental health professionals and teachers in the planning and creation of drills and notifying all participants in advance. In addition, it suggests parental permission should be required for all students and all participants should have a chance to opt out. A major step in enabling more Barbadians to become financially literate has been taken. It comes with the launch of the National Financial Literacy Expansion Program, which is being taken into the schools. Consultant Project Coordinator Corey Worrell says 6 primary and 6 secondary schools will be the initial beneficiaries.
I know something probably popped off in some of your minds, wondering why not more schools? but we understand the importance of creeping before you walk, walking before you run. But here's another reality. There are 68 government primary schools, 21 secondary schools. Imagine trying to roll out the program all at once with that amount of schools. So we have a workable sample size, which we will pilot the program through. We can take the lessons learned, we can take the experience, look at it, etc. And next year, then we will have enough information that will help us to plan for bigger.
Minister of State in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Sandra Husbands, says the intention is to leave no citizen in poverty and the schools component is vital. She explains what the program is expected to do.
The financial literacy program is designed to encourage effective money management, to allow for financial security, wealth building, and the ultimate goal of building generational wealth.
Minister Husbands also outlined some of the areas the course will cover.
The first phase of the program focused on delivering a number of critical classes on financially related topics. The courses covered areas including debt management, managing your credit card, retirement planning, saving and investment. What is your credit rating and how do you manage it? The courses were designed to equip participants with skills to ensure success by building resilience through their ability to make sound financial decisions, to overcome adversity in the face of life's and businesses' unpredictable nature. Along with the mentorship, participants also benefit from guidance on which courses they should access to ensure that they can achieve their goals.
Also speaking during the launch of the National Financial Literacy Expansion Program was Minister of Energy and Business Development, Senator Lisa Cummins, and she called out the local business community for some of their advertising practices. She's asking them not to take advantage of the lack of financial understanding of people in desperate situations.
I remember seeing an advertisement where they were saying, buy one item, get the other one half off. But you get the other one half off if it's on hire purchase. But if you take the time to break down your interest costs, if you buy a hire purchase as opposed to cash, then you start to realize, it may not be looking so attractive. And I want to make a call as well to the business community, not just to participate by way of sponsorship in financial literacy, but also to demonstrate a level of responsibility and accountability to our community by putting out deals in the marketplace that don't necessarily attract people into things that they may not really be able to afford in the long term.
Senator Cummins says they'll be doing their part to educate Barbadians on financial matters, and she's called for good corporate responsibility to prevail.
A lot of these quick access to cash mechanisms where, quite frankly, the interest rates are almost predatory. And it is the poorest of the poor, and it is the most vulnerable who, for survival, sometimes need access to quick cash to be able to do what they need to do to support their families. And they're lured into these things by making it accessible and available, but then this triangle hold around their necks with interest rate is something that becomes untenable. Financial literacy is about, on the one hand, us understanding what we're signing up for, but corporate social responsibility is beyond sponsorship. It also is about responsible marketing practices, and I want to ensure that I send that very clear message across the bow to all of the partners who I hope will come to work with us, but also at the same time employ the principles of what we're hoping to do in their business practices.
Coming up, a 38-year-old woman remanded to prison on firearm and drugs charges. A 38-year-old woman has been remanded to Dodds Prison after being arrested and charged for a number of drug and firearm charges. She is Sabrina Lakeisha Atherley of Vauxhall Gardens, Christchurch. She's charged with possession of a firearm, ammunition, cannabis, and cocaine. Atherley has also been charged with trafficking and intent to supply the drugs found. The offences are said to have been committed at her residence on Friday, the 6th of October. She appeared before Magistrate McKenna in the Oysins Magistrates Court yesterday. She's set to reappear on Thursday, the 9th of November. A man in his 20s was injured during a shooting incident in the Ivy last night. Police Operations Control received a report from an anonymous caller at around 9:36 p.m. stating that a man had been shot in the area of 4th Avenue. Police responded and on arrival learned that the man received an injury to his left thigh while at a shop in the area. He was transported to the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in a private motorcar. Now, anyone who can provide information that can assist with the investigation is asked to contact the nearest police station. The Caribbean Court of Justice will hear an application for special leave from former ICBL executive Alex Tasker during a special sitting of the CCJ in Barbados come Monday. Orders for him to be extradited to the U.S. to face money laundering charges were issued in September 2021. Attempts by his legal team to appeal the decision were dismissed by the local court of appeal. He then sought special leave with the CCJ to appeal the decision. That too was dismissed in July this year on the ground that no arguable case was advanced by him to justify the granting of special leave. Now, in the hearing on Monday, the CCJ will consider whether the decision to dismiss the application should be reversed, and if it is, whether his appeal should be allowed. Mr. Tasker has been linked to the Donville Innis scandal, which resulted in the former government minister spending 2 years in a U.S. jail for his role in a scheme to launder bribe payments from a Barbados-based insurance company through bank accounts in New York. Barbados and other Caribbean countries are being told about the importance of including communities in disaster risk reduction. Executive Director of the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, Elizabeth Riley, says in order to address disaster inequalities, small island states must look to develop robust strategies to include its people in the decision-making process. Ms. Riley's comments come as the world celebrates International Day for Disaster Risk Reduction under the theme, Fighting Inequality for a Resilient Future.
Local communities are on the front line and first responders in disasters. Empowering them with knowledge, skills, and resources is crucial for building resilience. It also means engaging them in decision-making processes that affect their lives. 2. Inclusive disaster risk reduction. Our strategies for disaster risk reduction must be inclusive, considering the needs of marginalized groups, including women, children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities. And 3. Equitable access to resources. We must ensure that resources and opportunities are distributed fairly among all members of society.
Ms. Riley says disaster risk reduction is not only about building robust infrastructure.
It also needs to tackle the root causes of vulnerability and inequality. International cooperation, financial assistance, technology transfer, and capacity building must be targeted to address the unequal impacts of climate-induced disasters on the Caribbean and other SIDS. As a global community, we must work together to collectively share knowledge, resources, and expertise to address these challenges.
Additional prizes are up for grabs as the National Independence Festival of Creative Arts, or NIFCA, celebrates its 50th anniversary. NIFCA is back in full force this year after a 2-year pandemic-induced hiatus and an abridged staging in 2022. Cultural Officer for Literary Arts at the National Cultural Foundation, Cara Price, has revealed some of the new awards up for grabs. She was a guest on CBC TV8's Morning Barbados.
Entrepreneurship award as well, valued at $15,000. And then there's the 50th anniversary NIFCA award as well, and that comes with a trophy and a cash prize. And as I mentioned, there's an incentive award for members of the disabled community who want to take part as well. So there are lots of different things that, you know, people can get involved in. And as for the juniors, we actually have a school-based competition this year. So we're encouraging all of the schools to take part, submit your entries, and the winning school is actually going to get a publication in their name.
Sports time now. Let's head over to the sports studio where Anne-Marie Burke is standing by live with the details. Good evening, Anne-Marie.
Good evening to you, Lisa. Well, a new road tennis queen is set to be crowned. Well, it will be a rematch of the men's final from last year after the semi-finals of the Barbados Road Tennis Open were completed last night at the Wildy Gym. And as expected, it served up some exciting action. We begin with ladies action as Sheldon Waldron, seen here, would have already won the first game 21-14 and was looking to close out the second easily, but Marveline Neblett was fighting back, nicely driven. Waldron looked so settled and easy, coming to the net before driving down the line. And just needing 2 points to win with a 7-point lead, Neblett staged a fight back and stopped Waldron in her tracks, first with this power serve. Neblett was on a run of points and was able to create long rallies and did enough to fault Waldron into the net, closing the gap on the scoreboard at 19-14. But with the edge, all Waldron needed was for Neblett to break her rhythm, and it came right here, the long-awaited game and match point for her. And though Neblett sneaked in 2 more points, this is where Waldron booked her ticket to the big showdown. Neblett knocks out of court on the return, 25-17 this game. Waldron, last year's losing finalist, has a shot to change her fortunes. And for sure, we will have a new ladies champion. As defending her crown, Kim Holder could not get past the fight and grit of Maudlin Blunt. This is the first game with Blunt up 18-12, and Holder returns to the net to make it 19-12, and the pressure is on. Holder, looking to send it into a decisive third game, was lethal with the returns. This one too hot for Blunt, who faults again, as Holder was able to even things up at a game apiece by taking the second at 21-14. And this is where the gym was on the edge of their seats. Final game, a 1-point difference, 18-17. Blunt with the edge. Both women not giving up any return. This is do or die stages. Blunt goes soft. Holder responds. And then Blunt comes to the net and kills it. Now that is great tennis. The score went to 20-19. Holder has the serve. Blunt responds, and Holder is in full flight mode. Blunt losing her balance on the return, array locked up at 20-all. Blunt serves, and the ladies go at it again. Keeping the ball going was key. And then Blunt was a nice backhand cross, and though Holder appealed, it was in, giving Blunt the 21-20 advantage. And here we go. Game and match point. And what we were in for was one of the longer rallies of the match, just waiting for someone to slip. And it goes on for a while before Holder clips the net. There we go. Maudlin Blunt upstages defending champion Kim Holder 20-20. She runs to her coach. We will have a new road tennis queen. On the men's side, Mark Venom Griffith will defend his title after a straight game victory over Davian Forsyth Taylor. And while Griffith held his composure for majority of the game, it was Taylor's constant errors that went to his easy win. When Taylor got the plays right, there were some sweet shots executed, like how he drove this one to Griffith's right. That was a beauty. Game and match point. And while Taylor looked to keep things going, what beat him all game and gave Griffith the edge had the final say, going for the big plays but could not get over the net. Mark Venom Griffith will defend his title. And he will play the young man who he beat to take the title last year, Shaquem Nurse, who had to rally 5 sets to beat the veteran Antonio Lerman Daniel. And they had one of the more entertaining matchups of the night, with Nurse driving sweetly past Daniel. That took him to the first game point. And he was able to snatch it when Daniel knocked out of court to end the game 21-11. And then this is where we knew we truly had a battle on our hands. This is how Daniel snatched game 2. Winding up for what looked like a big one, but drops it short. That's a little man play. 21-12 the second. The third went to Nurse at 21-17, Daniel the fourth 21-9, and so we're into that decider with the score on 19-14 to Nurse. And Daniel falls going into the net, and the youngster can smell that finals berth now. He picks up the serve from Daniel, and on the return, Daniel goes into the net, and the fat lady sang, Nurse jumps for joy, youth beats experience. The tears were there, and he embraced the man who has been a stalwart in the sport. Shaquem Nurse will again meet Mark Venom Griffith to prove who is the best man in the sport of road tennis. And later tonight, CBC TV8's final score will preview that grand finale with the finalists and organizers on to review the tournament and look ahead to who's likely to win Sunday's final. Now, final score is live from 8:30 p.m. Barbados was recognized in a big way recently at the annual International Fitness and Bodybuilding Congress in Aruba, where local administrators Ivor Worrell and Roger Boyce, along with Minister of Sport Honorable Charles Griffith, were honored for their role in developing the sport in the region. It was also the occasion of the election of the Executive Board of the CAC Bodybuilding and Fitness Federation, in which Boyce has been elected as Vice President. He said his work has long started.
I started to do work as the vice president of the region because right now we promote the biggest event in the region, in top 5 in the world, and already I'm going out to Caribbean islands to help them promote their competitions.
Any other mandate that you have as VP?
Yes, to get federations in the Caribbean dormant, get them up and going. And that is what we'll be starting to work on. I don't want to leave here without thanking the President, Dr. Sparman, and the exec of the Barbados Bodybuilding and Fitness Federation for having that confidence in me to nominate me for that position. And I also at this point too would like to thank the presidents of the regions and the delegates who would have voted for me to the position of Vice President.
Worrell, who has been involved in the sport for 43 years, was honored for his yeoman service. He says if we look at it from a nationalistic viewpoint, Barbados has been leaders in the administration of the sport.
It's a young team. They were filled with confidence. They supported each other in every step of the way. And when you have that coming through, it tells us that they're comfortable, they're confident, and that the future of the discipline is in good hands, because this is the 50th year for bodybuilding at the CAC level. And for Barbados to be taking an extremely young team to the discipline with the seasoned campaigners from other countries on their way out, it tells you now we're well poised to bounce back and take it over again.
We're hearing tonight about increased financial assistance to the manufacturing sector. Minister of Industry, Science and Technology, Davidson Ishmael, made the disclosure as he addressed the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry's luncheon at the Sandals Resort today. Trevor Thorpe has those details.
The minister says the assistance has begun with the opening of the Afrixam Bank earlier this year, which will be followed by the opening of the Barbados Export-Import Bank. He says its operation will fall under the Ministry of Industry, Science and Technology.
We have realized that we simply cannot afford to keep providing grant financing to the manufacturing sector. Thus, through Afrixam and the imminent establishment of BETSIM, we believe that this iterative innovation will address the most cited difficulty experienced by small business owners here in Barbados. That is, access to sufficient capital financing.
The Industry, Science and Technology Minister says the financing from the two entities will cover large and small enterprises and bring new life to the manufacturing sector.
These two institutions, while both being categorized as EXIM banks, will target different customers on the basis of size. BETSIM, which is set to commence operations early next year, will target MSMEs and our smaller businesses, while the level of support being offered by Afrixam is best suited for much larger firms. I expect this to be a game changer for the manufacturing sector as it addresses a core problem and gives micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises the chance to acquire much-needed financing and funding to scale up their operations and strengthen their current positions.
The minister also told the audience digital transformation is occupying government's attention. He cautions it is an ambitious undertaking, but doable. Trevor Thorpe, CBC News.
The shortage of some food staples should soon come to an end. President of the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry, James Clark, tells the Business Report they have been monitoring the situation, but notes heat and drought have led to supply chain issues.
Certain brands of rice have been in short supply through various supply issues, as they understand from our members. This isn't to say there is a short supply of rice in itself, but there's just short supply of certain brands. But they do expect that will be rectified within the next coming weeks.
Let's head on back over to the sports studio now for the second half in sports. Amory, over to you.
Thanks, Lisa. Well, the Barbados Cricket Association has thrown its full support behind embattled President Conde Riley. Riley came under fire from Cricket West Indies 2 weeks ago after announcing that he had received documents from the ICC which suggested that Barbados will host the finals of next year's T20 World Cup. Since then, Cricket West Indies President Dr. Kishore Shallow poured cold water over Riley's comments, stating that the venue for the final was yet to be ratified. Speaking during a media conference yesterday at Kensington Oval, the BCA Vice President Calvin Hope said the governing body for cricket on the island is rallying around its leader.
You had an election. Mr. Riley won the election, and the members spoke, and that's what it is. And you know, I've been a good friend of Mr. Riley for many years. Mr. Riley has served the BCA for quite a number of years. As a matter of fact, Mr. Riley came on the BCA board in 1996, and I came in 1997, and. You know, he's served well. So there's not an issue in terms of the operation of the BCA.
And that's where we wrap up the news for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Good night.